Is the Milkmaid Dress still a thing? Nah, I'll make it anyway. Let's get started. You will need your basic bodice block along with your sleeve block. You will need the measuring noodle, a pencil, a razor, a curved ruler, and a really long ruler. Trace out your basic bodice block, making sure to grab all the details. Your waistline, your bust line, and the dart marks. When tracing the sleeve, you don't need to draw the whole length of it. You can just make it a short sleeve since we're making puff sleeves. And then you can just cut them all out. We start with drawing your bust radius. So I just use the compass and draw a nice big circle. Next I added markings to take out some of the excess and ease out of my pattern, since I want this to sit nice and snug against my body. Here I made a mark where I want my sleeves to go, and I drew a line up towards it. And I also drew a line for where the bust will be gathered, how I want it to lay. But halfway I realized that's not actually how I want the dress. So I stopped and stuck that back together. And I remembered that the sleeves will be made to go over the shoulders or hang down. So this needs to be closed, and I actually need to draw a curve to the inside of my armhole. And I cut that out. I also cut out the axes and the darts. I'm not going to stick them together since I want them to be apart. I just added little markings so I can make those markings on my pattern pieces later and know where they meet. I drew a curve for my neckline where my bust will be gathered, just to get an idea how I want it. Then I opened up the dart at the bottom so I can draw the curve, making sure they all connect beautifully. The bust pattern piece, I then took a piece of paper and I closed up where the darts would be. I closed them up since for the part we'll be doing next, it'll be easier if they are closed and the pattern is one piece. Then on the bust pattern, what I did is I drew lines about 2 centimeters apart. There's no signs to it. You can make the spacing as much as you want. I numbered each strip of the pattern and then I just cut them out. I took a piece of fabric that I just gathered a little bit just to see how I want the bust to be gathered when the dress is done, just to get an idea of how I need to space my pieces apart from each other. And then I just drew a straight line on a piece of paper, and I used the bust line that was already on the pattern as my guide. Started sticking the pattern pieces on there one by one. There's my whole pattern piece done. We'll then do the exact same thing with the sleeve pattern, also drawing in strips, making sure to number them one by one and lay them out on a piece of paper. But first, draw a straight line so you have an idea where to place each of those pieces. And best practice is to start from the middle. That'll make it easier. There's again no science to it how far you need to space them out. It all depends on how poofy you want your sleeve. I also started curving the pattern pieces a little bit, still keeping the same space at the top, but at the bottom the spaces are a little bit smaller. I want the sleeve to be more puff on top and thinner at the bottom. Drew a line connecting the bottoms. The top I just drew alongside the pieces just to make it as a guide. Since this is a sleeve that's going to be the same on each side, I just fold it in half and then cut it out. Now with the front done and the sleeve done, we can get started with the back. I drew out my neckline, starting also with a curve from the armhole to the center back. I also took out the ease from the side as we did with the front and cut that out. Since I want my back gathered with elastic, I cut from where the dart started and made a line and just cut that piece of the pattern out. That'll be my side piece as is. The middle back piece that remains, we're also going to slash and spread it as we did with the bust and the sleeve. I don't know if what I'm doing now makes me a genius or just makes me lazy. I didn't feel like cutting out each piece like I have before, numbering them one by one and then sticking them down. So I just opted to draw them down, folding the piece of paper where the next line is, and then draw them down and just trace around it, draw the line, make my spacing, and then once again just trace out the pattern piece. Redrew a guide from the top to the middle part of the back. And the back pattern piece is then all done. All that was left is to just mark on my patterns where they meet and their names. Now we can get started with the fabric. I folded the fabric in half since all the pieces are either 2 of or it's cut on a fold. The fabric I'm using is a sporty material. It's shiny on the one side, very stretchy, but what I love most about this fabric is it also doesn't fray, so I don't need to bother with hems and things like that. I laid out all my pattern pieces and just outlined them with fabric chalk, making sure to mark out where all my markings go, the notches, which side is front, which side is back, and just also naming the pieces just so you always have an idea what pieces you're busy with. I also drew in the seam allowance for each piece afterwards on the fabric itself. I also decided I'll be cutting 4 of the pattern pieces that'll be going under the bust as well. The seam allowance will be then hidden within the 2 pieces, so it'll look a lot neater on the inside and the outside. With all the pieces done, we can finally get started with the sewing. I first prepped a couple of bobbins so we don't run out, and then I just threaded my machine and we're all good to go. We'll start sewing with the center front of the bodice, making sure all the pieces are aligned and laid together perfectly. I also made sure to just snip in the notches for the other two pieces to make sure when we sew that they align together. Now we have two layers because the one will be on the inside and the other one will be on the outside. I made sure to make notches in the other pattern pieces as well, just so they're easier to identify. And of course, aligning your patterns together. We also started assembling all the pairs together. I have the side seams together for the ones on the front and the back, and that'll also be connected to the center front pieces that goes underneath the bust for the back and the front. And once all done, it should look like this. The center front going underneath the bust, the side seams for the front and the side seam on the back. This piece here is only for the front, which doesn't include the back side panels, and that is where we'll be encasing the front bodice. Here I'm just laying the back pieces together. I'm going to sew the top closed. The back will be gathered with elastic, so I'm closing up the sides with pins so the fabric won't move around. The elastics will be put into 3 different channels that I'll sew in. So here I'm just marking out the different spacings that I need to make sure they're all laying evenly throughout the back so that it gathers nicely. I drew in the lines where I will be top stitching over the 2 fabrics to create those channels, and using pins to make sure the fabric doesn't shift around. I was sewing the first channel for the elastic when I realized I'm working backwards, so I had to stop. I need to connect this back gathering piece to the bodice first. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm aligning them together. But the 2 layers of fabric where the gathering will be in, I'm not pinning both of them to the sides of the bodice. I'm only pinning the first layer, which will be on top. When you're aligning your center back pattern, it will be gathered to the side panels of the back. Make sure to leave the seam allowance from the top to be over the part where the fabric of the back is already folded closed where you sewed it closed already. This will make sense a bit later, but just make sure to leave the seam allowance above open. Now we can start sewing the channels for the back piece. Just follow the lines you drew earlier and top stitch over them, making sure that the pieces of fabric are laid on top of one another, that you're not just sewing one, because now you want to create a little tunnel for the elastic to go through. And now measured out how much elastic I would need for the back, just by checking my elastic how far it can stretch and how much it'll contract once it's sewn in. Now, since we only sewn the one side of the back panel to the side piece, we can now use that opening on the side to feed the elastic through. I use this ring hook contraption to pull my elastic pieces through, starting by pinning the one side in place and then pulling it through and then pinning it on the other end so it doesn't just retract back into the channel. And I did that for all three of them. And then I sewed the sides closed, making sure the elastic is in between the two fabrics, that they're not going anywhere. Now with the back all done, we can get started with the front. I'll be taking my two pattern pieces that goes over the bust that we'll be gathering with ribbon. I fold over the seam allowance and I folded it over again. That will create a channel where we can put the ribbon in. Almost forgot, we also need to fold over the seam allowance in the center front of the front bodice. You're not just left with a raw seam. With the channel all sewn up, now we can cut the ribbon that we need for the front. Just use the length of the cup and also a little bit longer so you can create a bow however you want to style it. I also made a gathering stitch at the bottom of the pattern piece so I can gather it with the thread so it can be placed into the front bodice that we already sewn. Using the gathering, we can now pin it to the front bodice. Start from the inside of the arm and pin it all the way to the center front, using the gathering thread to pull it tighter or looser depending on how much give you need for the cup to fit in. since my machine is already set on a gather stitch, I'm going to do the sleeve as well. And I'm going to sew it all along the top side of the sleeve, because that part will also be gathered. I set my machine back to what it was. I also took the ribbons that I already cut for the front bodice, and I just burned them with a lighter to stop it from fraying. I also wanted to gather that so long into the cups, so that it can be also sewn in place when we sew the cups in. Unfortunately, my camera went on strike, so I didn't capture when we sewed the front bodice. So what we did was, the cups were already pinned into place, and that was sewn to the front bodice. We also took the other part of the front bodice that we made two of. We also laid that over right sides together and sewn that to the bodice as well, so that the seam allowance from the under bust is encased in there, so it looks neat on the inside. Here I am busy adding elastic to the sleeves, which is also sewn to the bodice, but only the bottom part of the sleeves were attached to the dress. The top part was left untouched. That's where I'm adding the elastic, so that you can wear it over your shoulder or off your shoulder, whichever way you want. I also top stitched underneath the bust line. Since it's two layers of fabric and the seams are encased in between them, this will help make it look nice and neat, and the fabric won't move around if you wash it or wear it. And the bodice is basically done. Now we can move on to the skirt. I'll be just making a circle skirt for the bottom. I cut two pieces of them to create the circle skirt. I can link an app for you what you can use to calculate your waist and all that, and how you can measure how long you want the dress, because this part is all based on preference what you want. Christmas Beetle also came to check what I was doing. With the skirt cut, I started by pinning the sides, and I'm going to sew that together first. Then just pin the skirt to the bodice off camera, so you can guess what I'm doing there. We're almost done. I took a very thin piece of elastic, which I'll be using on the sleeves for the bottom part that'll go around the arm. Just a few more steps to go. I cut off the excess from the skirt, which was sewn to the bottom, and the front part of the bodice that we sewn on the inside. I'm now going to sew that closed on the waistline of the skirt, so it looks neat on the inside. And we're finally done. So what do you guys think? Do we like? Do we love? I'm really happy with how this came out, and I hope you do too. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Okay, see you guys next time. Bye.